The bite that started everything, Ryan, was just another human explorer walking through the alien market. The sky above was purple, the air was warm, and the smells were strange. He had seen many planets in his time, but this one was full of unknown life beings that barked, buzzed, or slithered past without a word. He moved calmly, checking the stalls, searching for spare parts and clean water. Everything was going well until he heard a growl. It was low, deep, and close. He turned slowly and saw her. She stood with one foot on a box, her golden fur shining in the sunlight. She had tall, pointed ears, long white hair, and glowing yellow eyes. Her face was beautiful but wild. A short tail flicked behind her, and her sharp claws tapped the metal floor. She looked like a mix of human and some kind of alien dog, but the most shocking thing was her stare. She wasn't afraid of him. She was challenging him. Ryan held up his hands. "Easy," he said with a calm voice. "I'm not here to hurt anyone," but she didn't understand his words. Instead, she moved too fast. Before he could react, she jumped forward and bit his hand. Her sharp teeth sank in just enough to draw a line of blood. Ryan hissed in pain but didn't scream. The crowd nearby gasped and backed away. Some aliens laughed. Others watched in silence. This girl had marked him. Ryan looked at the bite. Then, without a word, he leaned forward and bit her back right. On the arm. She froze. Her ears twitched. Her tail stopped moving. Her lips parted, but no words came. The crowd went silent. Nobody had expected that. For a moment, they just stood there, staring at each other. She touched her arm where he bit her. Her golden eyes widened, not in anger, but in shock. Then, to everyone's surprise, she blushed. A warm red color spread across her cheeks and down her neck. Ryan pulled his hand back and wiped the blood. "I bite back," he said, half to himself. The alien girl took one slow step back. Her expression changed from wild to confused. She looked around like she didn't know what to do now. Then, without another sound, she turned and ran off into the crowd. Ryan watched her go, rubbing his sore hand. He didn't understand what had just happened. Who was she? Why did she attack him? And why did his bite make her act like that? The merchant at the nearest stall leaned forward. "You're lucky, human," the merchant said with a crooked smile. "She didn't tear your arm off. Who was she?" Ryan asked. The merchant chuckled. "One of the wild kind, raised far from cities. Their tribe lives by instinct, fight, hunt, bond. They bite what they fear or what they want." Ryan raised an eyebrow. "What they want?" "Yes," the merchant said, eyes sharp now. "Sometimes the bite is not just attack, it is a test." Ryan looked down at the mark on his hand. Again, he didn't understand her world or her ways, but something told him this wasn't over. That girl had looked at him like no one ever had. Like he was more than just another outsider. As the sun began to set, Ryan continued his walk. But something strange happened. He started to feel like he was being watched. Every few minutes, he glanced over his shoulder. No one there. But the feeling wouldn't go away. When he stepped into a quiet alley to check his bag, he saw something move above, just a flash of white hair on the rooftop. She was still near. She was following him. Not with growls or attacks this time, but with silence. Like a shadow. Like a hunter that had chosen her prey. Or something else. That night, Ryan set up his tent at the edge of the city. He lit a small fire and cooked a meal from his ration packs. As he ate, he heard a soft rustle behind the rocks. He didn't turn. He simply said, "Still hungry, girl?" Silence. Then a small growl, not angry, but soft. He smiled to himself. Whatever she wanted, this was only the beginning. The bite had started something strange, and Ryan had a feeling it was going to change everything. The silent following the morning was quiet, But Ryan didn't feel alone. Even before he opened his eyes, he knew she was nearby. The air felt thicker. The silence wasn't empty, it had weight. Something was watching him. Carefully, he opened the tent flap and looked out. There, sitting on a rock not far from his camp, was the alien girl. She wasn't hiding this time. Her legs were crossed, arms resting on her knees, and her golden eyes stared directly at him. She didn't move. She didn't growl. She just watched. Like she was waiting for something. Ryan sat by the fire and pretended to ignore her. He boiled water and made tea, chewing on a protein bar. But she didn't leave. Even when a sand wind blew across the desert, she stayed. After a few minutes, Ryan finally spoke. "You planning to just sit there all day?" The girl tilted her head. She didn't understand his words, but something in his tone made her tail twitch. She lowered her ears slightly. It wasn't fear, it was curiosity. As the sun rose higher, Ryan packed his things. He walked toward the main city again, and when he glanced over his shoulder, she was gone. Or so he thought. Every time he turned down a street, entered a shop, or paused at a vendor's stall, he caught glimpses of her. In reflections. On rooftops. Behind doors. She was following him like a shadow. Quiet. Constant. By midday, he stopped pretending not to see her. "You might as well walk beside me," he muttered. Still, she didn't come closer. That evening, Ryan spoke to the merchant again, the same one who had warned him the day before. He asked carefully, "Why does she keep following me?" The old alien gave him a long, thoughtful look. "Because you bit her," Ryan frowned, "and she marked you. Then you marked her back. In her tribe, that means unfinished bond, not rejection, not acceptance. A test that still waits for a choice." Ryan let that sink in. He never signed up for this. He didn't know her language, her customs, or even her name. And yet, she was following him like a silent protector. That night, Ryan found an old storage yard near the spaceport, quiet and abandoned. He set up camp there, wanting some space from the busy streets. As darkness fell, he saw glowing yellow eyes in the shadows. She had followed him again, but this time, she stepped out slowly. She didn't growl. She didn't move fast. She came close enough to touch, and then, with one fluid motion, she curled up beside his fire. Her ears twitched. Her tail rested over her feet. She didn't speak. She just stayed. Ryan stared at her for a long time. He didn't know what to say. What could he say? He offered her a piece of dried meat. She sniffed it, took it gently, and chewed. For the first time, she didn't run. She didn't attack. She simply lay there, like she belonged. And when Ryan finally lay down to rest, he heard a soft sound. A low, steady hum. She was purring or something close to it. Ryan closed his eyes. He still didn't understand her. But now, she was no longer a threat. She was something else. Something new, and maybe something dangerous in a whole different way. Alien instincts revealed the next day brought more questions than answers. Ryan awoke to find her still there, sitting close by, her head resting on her arms, her tail slowly wagging. She hadn't left during the night. She hadn't even flinched when a security drone flew by. She had simply watched over him. But why? He needed answers. He couldn't keep guessing what every glance, growl, or tail twitch meant. So he went back to the merchant, the only one who seemed to know her kind. "I need to understand," Ryan said. "She bit me. I bit her back. Now she follows me like a lost pet, but she isn't just an animal." The merchant's expression turned serious. "She's not a pet. She's a female from the Corva War, born pack-minded. You passed her test. She now sees you as potential. Potential for what?" Ryan asked, narrowing his eyes. The old alien leaned forward. "A mate. A bond partner. They don't use words. They use instincts. Her bite was not just a challenge, it was a question. Your bite back was your answer. Now she waits to see what comes next. Ryan felt like the ground moved beneath him. A mate? Was that even possible? When he returned to camp, she was waiting like always. But something had changed. She stood as he approached and reached out her clawed hand. She gently touched his bitten hand, sniffed it again, and made a soft sound in her throat. He didn't. Pull away. Later that evening, while fixing a torn strap on his bag, he heard a sudden yelp. She had cut her arm on sharp metal trying to help move some gear. Blood dripped, and she looked at him with wide, uncertain eyes. Ryan quickly grabbed a cloth and took her hand. "It's all right," he said softly. He gently cleaned the wound. Her muscles tensed at first, but then something happened. She leaned into his touch. Her eyes softened. Her body relaxed. And as he wrapped the cloth around her arm, she let out a strange, warm sound. It wasn't a growl. It was something closer. To a sigh. Then, to his surprise, she reached up and nuzzled his shoulder slow and careful, like a wild animal learning trust for the first time. Ryan stayed still. This wasn't just alien behavior. This was emotional. Deliberate. The next day, she brought him food, cooked meat, unfamiliar fruit, and even clean water. She sat near him while he ate, watching his every move. When he coughed from the strange flavor of the fruit, she gently licked his hand as if checking he was still okay. Ryan couldn't deny it anymore. She wasn't following him because of confusion or fear. She had chosen him. And somehow, it didn't feel so strange anymore. But as their bond deepened, Ryan sensed something else in the air. Eyes in the shadows. Silent figures watching from rooftops. Others of her kind. And they didn't look friendly. Trouble from her pack. The tension in the air was sharp, like the moment before lightning strikes. Ryan felt it before he saw them. The way the alien girl's ears twitched. The way her tail stiffened. Her calm behavior was gone. She was alert now, tense, guarded. She stood in front of Ryan like a shield, shoulders low, claws slightly out. Then they appeared. 3 tall figures stepped out from the far end of the alley. Each one had the same glowing yellow eyes, fur-covered skin, and strong bodies. Their movements were slow but threatening. They were Carva males, and they had come for her. Ryan stood up slowly. The girl didn't move from his side. The leader stepped forward. He barked in a rough, growling language. The words meant nothing to Ryan, but the meaning was clear. He pointed at the girl, then at Ryan. Then he growled again, louder. The girl didn't answer with words. She answered with her stance. She spread her legs, raised her chin, and growled back deeper and stronger than Ryan had ever heard. She was challenging her own kind. Ryan whispered, "What's going on?" From behind, the old merchant's voice spoke. He had been watching quietly. "Her pack has come. They think you've stolen her. Or worse, claimed her without earning her." "I didn't claim anyone," Ryan said, "but you bit back." The merchant replied, "And in their culture, that means something. Now they need you to prove yourself." Ryan turned back just in time to see the lead male drop a metal weapon onto the ground between them. Not a gun, not a sword. It was a strange, clawed ring made for a trial. The merchant's voice turned grim. They want a duel. No weapons, no tricks. Prove you're worthy or walk away and lose her. The girl looked up at Ryan. For the first time, there was fear in her eyes, not for herself, but for him. "I can't fight like them," Ryan said, heart pounding. "They're faster, stronger, but not smarter," the merchant said. "And remember when she bit you. You didn't run. You answered her in her own language. Do that again." The circle was drawn. The pack formed a ring. The girl stood at the edge, watching in silence. Her claws clenched. Ryan stepped forward. The alien male towered over him, fur bristling, teeth bared. The crowd held its breath. Then the fight began. The male lunged fast, aiming to knock Ryan flat. But Ryan ducked, slid under, and rolled to his feet. He remembered every self-defense class he took back on Earth, every survival lesson, every instinct. He wasn't trying to win with strength. He was trying to endure. The alien attacked again. Ryan dodged, countered with a knee, then took a hit to the side. Pain shot through him, but he stayed on his feet. Finally, with blood in his mouth, Ryan saw the chance. The alien's neck was exposed. Without thinking, without fear, Ryan lunged forward and bit down hard, right on the alien's throat. The crowd gasped. The alien male roared and stumbled back, shocked. No one expected a human to fight like that, to answer back in their primal way. But Ryan stood tall, teeth bared, panting like an animal. The alien girl walked into the circle slowly. She didn't say anything. She just knelt in front of Ryan, head lowered, tail curled around her dot in front of her pack. She had chosen him, and now everyone knew. Asterisk the human's bite. No one moved. No one spoke. Even the wind seemed to stop. Ryan stood in the center of the circle, blood on his lips, chest rising and falling with sharp breaths. The large alien male he had bitten backed away slowly, one hand over the red mark on his neck. The message was clear. This human didn't just survive the challenge. He finished it in their language. The crowd of Corva males lowered their heads slightly, not in fear, but in recognition. The human had done something no outsider ever dared. He had returned the bite, not with weapons of firepower, but with understanding of instinct. And a little pain. The girl rose quietly and stepped forward. She didn't run to him. She didn't cry. She simply stood beside Ryan, shoulder to shoulder, eyes steady. Then, in one graceful motion, she reached out and gently bit his shoulder lightly. Like a whisper. It was not a challenge. It was a claim. Ryan didn't step back. Instead, he placed his hand gently on her head, fingers brushing through her fur-like hair. He didn't need to say anything. They both understood. As they left the circle, the pack parted without a word. No one dared stop them now, back at camp. That night, the silence between them felt different. It wasn't cold anymore. It was warm, safe, familiar. She moved closer than ever before. Not like a guard, not like a follower, but like something else. Ryan looked at the stars above, feeling the soreness in his body. His side ached. His teeth still hurt from the bite. But there was something new in his chest, a calm he hadn't known in years. Then he felt her hand on his, warm and rough. She brought her face close to his and made a soft sound almost like a purr, but deeper, filled with meaning. She slowly leaned her head on his shoulder and sighed. Her tail brushed against his leg gently, wrapping partway around him. Ryan whispered, "What am I to you?" She didn't reply in words. Instead, she touched his chest gently, right over his heart. Then her claws pressed lightly to her own. 2 beats. One bond. In her world, he was no longer a stranger. Not a visitor, not prey. He was hers, and more importantly, she was his. But beyond the quiet bond they shared, Ryan knew something else, something darker was rising. Her people had accepted his challenge. But others in this galaxy might not be so open to a human bonding with a Pana, beast-born alien, and not everyone wanted peace. Some would see this union as a threat, a challenge to the natural order. And challenges demand answers. Loyalty and love days passed. But Ryan could no longer tell where survival ended and connection began. She was no longer just following him. She was with him. When he walked through the markets, she matched his pace. When they rested, she sat close enough for their shoulders to touch. And when he spoke, Even if she didn't understand, she listened like every word mattered. He had started calling her Sarah. It wasn't her real name. He didn't even know if her kind used names the same way. But when he said it, she looked at him with soft, glowing eyes and the smallest hint of a smile. She liked it. Sarah. One evening, they stopped by a stream outside the city walls. Ryan sat down on a large rock, exhausted from hours of scavenging. Sarah returned moments later, carrying fruit and a chunk of roasted meat. She dropped it in front of him proudly, like a wild animal bringing food to its mate. Ryan laughed softly. "You don't have to do this every time." She tilted her head, confused. Then, with a firm motion, she picked up a piece of fruit and pressed it gently to his lips. He took a bite. She wagged her tail. He was starting to understand. Her language was touch, action, presence. That night, while they rested near the fire, Ryan began to teach her a few words. "Mate," he said, pointing to himself and then to her. She blinked, then looked away shyly. Her ears lowered. Then she touched his chest with her hand. "Mate," she repeated softly, rough and broken, but clear. Ryan's heart skipped. But the peace didn't last. The next day, he ate something strange from a street vendor. By evening, his stomach twisted. In pain, his skin burned. His vision blurred. He collapsed in the corner of an alleyway. When he woke, he was half-conscious, drenched in sweat. And Sarah was gone. He tried to speak, but his voice cracked. Then movement. She returned, panting, dirt and scratches on her legs, carrying a metal vial in her hands. Alien writing covered it. She forced it into his mouth and poured the bitter liquid down his throat. He gagged, but the pain started to ease. She had run through the city, fought off local thieves, begged from healers who barely understood her. All for him. Hours later, when he woke again, she was asleep beside him, curled around his body like a shield. Her arms held him, her tail wrapped over his legs. Her chest rose and fell with deep, protective breaths. He gently moved a strand of white hair from her face. "You saved me," he whispered. Her eyes opened slowly, and for the first time she said his name. Not perfectly, but close enough. Ryan. That single word spoken in her raw, rough voice hit deeper than any kiss. She didn't need grand gestures. She had chosen him long ago. And now, even death wouldn't take her away from him. But far beyond the quiet alleyways and firelit nights, another threat was rising. Sarah had broken rules to bond with a human. And now something bigger was coming. Something that didn't care about love, instinct, or ancient bites. They were being watched. And war was coming. A bond like no other. The skies turned red days later. Ryan knew something was wrong before the alarms even rang. The market cleared. Too quickly. The wind carried scents he didn't recognize: burnt metal, engine fuel, panic. Then came the sound of boots. Not the heavy stomps of the Corva, but smooth, precise movements. Soldiers. Sarah stood at the edge of the roof above him, eyes narrowed. Her tail was still, ears pulled back. She had heard them before he had. She jumped down without a word and stood in front of him, blocking his path. Then a voice echoed from the shadows. "There he is, the human who bonded with the beast." A tall alien in armor stepped into the light, flanked by two others. They wore the insignia of the Galactic Purity Council, a group that believed species should never mix. No unions. No shared blood. No cross-race bonds. You broke sacred code. The leader growled, pointing at Sarah. "And you," he turned to Ryan, "you encouraged it." Sarah growled deep in her throat, claws extending, ready to fight. Ryan stepped beside her. "She didn't break anything. We chose each other." The leader laughed. "You think that matters? A human and a half-beast female? You've embarrassed your species." And worse, you've inspired others." Behind him, more soldiers appeared. But before they could move, a howl split the sky. From the rooftops, Corva female Syrah's kin emerged. Dozens, maybe more. Silent and ready. And behind them? Locals, merchants, old aliens. Even the same vendor who once laughed when Syrah bit Ryan. Ryan looked around. Stunned. Syrah stepped forward and raised her head high. She growled, not in rage, but in declaration. One by one, the others growled with her. They weren't just defending a human. They were defending the choice to bond beyond race, culture, or biology. The soldiers hesitated. The leader's eyes narrowed. "You'll regret this." "No," Ryan said calmly. "You will." The crowd surged. The council soldiers backed off. Knowing this fight wasn't worth it, hours later, peace returned to the city. Ryan and Syrah sat by the edge of the river, watching the stars. "Why me?" he asked softly. "Out of everyone, why did you choose me?" Syrah looked at him, then slowly crawled into his lap, resting her head against his chest. "You bit back," she whispered. Ryan smiled, holding her close. No words, no counsel, no ancient law could erase what they had now. He had come to this planet alone, but he wouldn't leave it that way. And somewhere in the stars, their story had already begun spreading whispers of the human who bit back and the alien girl who chose love. Over everything else. It started with a bite, but it became a bond that would change worlds. Forever.